Namaskar. Good morning to all present here. Before starting the webinar, I would like to express my sincere thanks to the organizers of this event, specifically Professor R. Ravi, Francis Xavier Engineering College and his team, for inviting me to present this work in this webinar. The topic of today's presentation is Energy Efficiency in Wireless Sensor Network. This work happened to be the outcome of two of my PhD students, Dr. Ajay Kaushik and Saji Anthony. Saji Anthony is yet to defend her thesis. She will be doing it very soon. The co-authors of the papers are Professor Daya Gupta and Professor Rajeshwari Pandey. I am thankful to them also for allowing me to present the work in this webinar. I will be going ahead like this. I'll be initially introducing wireless sensor network. Then I'll introduce the characteristics of the sensor network. Then I'll discuss the issues and challenges related to energy efficiency of sensor network, because I am concentrating on energy efficiency. Then I will be explaining how we can use optimization algorithm for improving the energy efficiency. Then how we can modify the hardware for improving the energy efficiency. Then I'll conclude my work. The evolution of wireless sensor network started from dream of a well-known scientist, Mark Weiser. He dreamt the most profound technologies are those that disappear. They weave themselves into the fabric of everyday life until they are indistinguishable from it. Essence of that vision is creation of environments that is saturated with computing and communication capabilities, yet gracefully integrated with human users. So this is actually, we have seen this now. We are seeing this. Some 20 years before, if you want to run a program in a computer, we have to write it in a small floppy disk and give it to a person who is sitting in the computer server room. And computer server room will be a very, very big room. And computer takes that much space. Now, then we will get the result the next day, because it takes, see, at that time, the processors were bulky and it takes a lot of time. But now, simple mobile phone, everybody can use this mobile phone for calculating things. Whatever a computer whatever a computer does, everything a mobile phone can also do now. So, and this is basically, we can call that it is integrated with human beings. The mobile phone of a human being can be considered as a sensor for a human being, because we can track person where the mobile is. So this way, now it is basically integrated with the human users. The technology, the big device disappeared, but the technology is being used by the human beings very easily. So this is how wireless sensor network evolved. So the concept of wireless sensor network emerged as a first step of Mark Weiser's dream. Wireless sensor networks are highly distributed networks of small, lightweight wireless nodes deployed in large numbers. So when you consider a sensor network, we have to think about redundant sensors to be placed in a location. Reason behind these, sensors are prone to failure. If one sensor fails due to any reason, then some other sensor should be there to take care of its location. So therefore, we have to have redundant, we require redundancy in deploying wireless sensor networks. These sensors work with each other to sense some physical phenomena, and then information gathered is processed to generate relevant action. So these sensors will be working in coordination with all the sensors, and then a relevant action, it will generate a relevant action. This wireless sensor network consists of protocols and algorithms with self-organizing capability. So it is a must that we have to make the processor, these sensors self-organize. See, now we have lot of sensor network. Let us say sensor network 1, sensor network 2. This may be doing some measuring some temperature, pressure, humidity, and all. This may be doing some other work. Maybe camera networks are there, which is recording certain things. And all these information can be connected through an internet, where you can have analysis of the data, you can have process the data, you can store it, you can retrieve it. So by connecting the information from sensor network to the internet, we will be able to the process, analyze, and even somewhere we can even take relevant action also. So this figure I have taken from this link, and that link is placed here. Now let us see how what is the basics of a sensor node. Each sensor node consists of different sensing devices. So what do you mean by a sensing device? We can have any type of sensor, temperature sensor, pressure sensor, pollutant sensor. And nowadays human beings, for health application, we wear a Fitbit or Apple Watch. There actually the pulse will be sensed, and from the pulse things will be you sense a pulse, and then it can analyze our BP, heartbeat, if there is any problem. So different varieties of sensors are there. Varieties of sensors are there. And after sensing the information, it will process it. So there will be a small processor in each node so that the information can be processed. And then it will be communicated. Because suppose you think about a camera. Camera will be recording data, and the size of the data is huge. Suppose you record a video, we always feel that there will be the size is in megabytes. It will not be small data. So if the camera used in road transport keep on broadcasting the recording thing, then it is a huge wastage of energy. In road nothing happens. But suppose if a vehicle is moving fast, if the video can be processed, and if we can identify that, and once we identify it, that information can be sent. So therefore, processing at local level is very much important for reducing the energy consumption. So the processing element, we will be having a processing element, and it will be having a communication element. So once it sends, process, and the processed information will be communicated. They can communicate and coordinate with each other. So they can, like all these sensor nodes will communicate among themselves, and they'll coordinate also how to proceed, because the requirement is that from one node to another node, and from another node to the base station. So their work is that the whole work of the sensor network is it has to sense the information, aggregate it, process it, and the processed relevant information should be sent to a base station where it can be utilized properly. So sending it will be in a coordinated fashion. They will be doing it in a coordinated fashion. So this is actually the hardware. If you see the hardware, how the hardware is placed, the block diagram of hardware of sensor node is something like this. So it will be, I was telling that main things are these three. It will be having a sensing unit, it will be having a processing and storage unit, and then it will be having a transceiver for communication. These are the main things which I have told. Now we have some more thing in the sensor node. Localization. What do you mean by localization? Localization means identifying the location of the sensor node with respect to the sensing field. Suppose for localization means it will aware that the sensor node is aware about its location, and that is important. Because if suppose we have the more general location identification using GPS. If you, first of all, GPS will not work indoor. Second thing is that GPS only give latitude and longitude. And with latitude and longitude, you cannot predict the location of the sensor with respect to the sensing field. The sensor may be placed in the center of the sensing field, or it may be placed in one corner. So accordingly, its action will also be different. So sensor should know the location of its place with respect to the sensor field, which it is surveillance, where it is used for surveillance application. So localization capability should be there for every sensor node. Then the mobility. We can give sensor can move. For example, suppose we are using this sensor network for assessing the information in a disaster management. For example, suppose a fire broke up, or suppose some earthquake occurred. So it will be difficult for human being to reach there. So there we can send this mobile modes. It can go there, it can find out information, and it can come back, or it can even broadcast it so that it can reach us. So how will we move it? Simple example is the remote control car. If you think about a remote control car. In case of a remote control car, the sensor, the kid is moving the car, move forward, backward, turn it. All these things it will do. But here the sensor node has to move on its own. Nobody is there to control. So that means your processor should be equipped with equipped with work in coordination with mobility. That is, the processor should identify where it should go, whether it has to go. By sensing the data, it keeps on sensing the data. Suppose it is sensing the data and information is available while it is moving forward, then it will continuously going there. But after some time, if it feels that I am not getting any relevant information from the sensing device, then it will change its direction. So it has to explore the path. So that capability will be programmed in the processing element. So the sensor node can move, but the size should be compact. That is very, very important in case of a sensor network, because we will be doing redundant sensors. We will be putting redundant sensors. And the size, if the size of the sensor is big, it will be difficult. It will hinder the operation of human beings around it. So that also is to be taken care of. Now it requires a power unit. Power unit here will be battery operated, because we cannot put the sensor to a power socket. And suppose you consider the laptop or mobile phone. We will charge the laptop or mobile phone during night, and day you will be using it. And we cannot do this for the sensor nodes, because once deployed, it is unattended. It may be in some forest, it may be in some mountains for getting information. So naturally, it will be difficult for charging using chargeable battery. So it has to be having a power unit with sufficient power that it can exist for a longer period of time. So power unit is required. And now there are a lot of research going on energy scavenging. That is, it can like for example, solar powered node. We can have a solar powered sensor network, but that means it has to be outside and it should be exposure to sunlight. But now we have a lot of research are going on for taking the energy from radiations around it. For example, ultraviolet radiation, infrared radiation. So all those radiations, from all those radiations, it can generate power and it can charge the battery. So that is also, that research is also going on. So now let us moving ahead. let us explain the characteristics of sensor network. This I have already explained. This densely deployed, that is redundancy is a must factor in wireless sensor network, and it is prone to failures because once it is deployed, nobody attends it. So due to environmental factor or due to the overload, anything can happen, or any electronic circuit may fail, communication capability failed, that means sensor node is not working, and it can communicate among the nodes by broadcaster. Communication is done. For example, if you see this sensor will be broadcasting. So if the sensor is broadcasting, let us say this is the range of the sensor, then this it can hear. Then this is the range of the sensor, then it can hear. This is, so in this case, maybe this is the range, or this is the range, or this whole is the range, so that everywhere it can. So depending on the data, like the nearness of the sensor to the sensor node, the energy broadcasted or the information broadcasted by the sensor network can be coded by the sensor. It can read it. While broadcasting, it will always broadcast, every sensor node will always broadcast its ID as well as its location, so that other sensors will be able to know, what whoever is hearing will be able to know from where the information is coming, whether it is required for me or not. And if it is required, then you can store it, otherwise you can leave it. So that is what the sensor network does. So therefore, it 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 communicates by broadcast. So that is why we call it as a distributed communication, and it has limited computational resource and memory and power. Why? Because if the processing capability is high, the sensor node becomes bulky, and if memory is high, again it becomes bulky. So this always turns back to increase in power consumption. They will have a local ID, and it needs self-organizing capability. It has to be, because the sensor node works on its own. There is no central node or central computer there for taking care of its location. Now see the applications of sensor network. What are the applications of sensor network? We all know that loads and loads of applications are there for sensor network. I have written only 10. The 10 which I have written are environmental and habitat monitoring, acoustic detection, seismic detection, military surveillance, inventory tracking, medical monitoring, smart spaces, process monitoring, visual surveillance, road traffic monitoring. So I have taken this image from this link that I have placed here. So all these are only a very few in number compared to the application of wireless sensor network. See the military application, suppose, see, this is how it is being used by different devices. And in other applications are smart health, smart home, smart mobility, smart building, smart city. You name anything, you can have a application for wireless sensor network. So the application of wireless sensor network is in such a way that what you call the in the coming time, that is Internet of Things, wireless sensor network will play a very big role. What do you mean by Internet of Things? See, in case of now, if I want to connect to internet, human being has to type a user ID and a password. Then only you will be able to connect it to an internet. Connect us to an internet. But Internet of Things means, see, my phone is communicating to my car, or some intelligent notice board placed on my way. The phone will be always searching some information, and if it occasionally see that, okay, in this notice board this information is relevant for me, then it will click the photo and it will be mailed to me, so that I will be able to see the information. So Internet of Things means these the all things surrounding us are communicating to each other through internet. So therefore, wireless sensor network will be having a very big role in the era of IoT. See, now the once again I'll explain why wireless sensor network has limited power, because my application is, or the main point I am trying to explain in this is energy efficiency of wireless sensor network. So first of all, it has once deployed, the node is unattended. So that means actually I cannot charge the battery in between. Once I have deployed, it is there. So the battery power decides the number of days it can live, provided the load which is being carried by it is some standard limits there. So it is distributed communication. That is, suppose an information is generated here, that information initially will be because of the circular range it will take, then it broadcasts. So because of the circular range, this will be getting again. So using, we can say that the information is going from this side to the sync node. So it is actually distributed communication by broadcast. And processing of data in the local level. Processing of data in local level is very important, that I have already explained by taking the example of a camera. So if we cannot sense all the time, and all data which we sensed cannot be sent for processing. We need the processed information will be sent. So it requires a processor, and the processor also will take power. So naturally, the energy efficiency of the sensor network is a big issue, and we would try to reduce it for effective operation of wireless sensor network. See, now let us see the energy efficiency can be, how we can achieve energy efficiency. Using clustered networks, like you have randomly deploying sensors, and if every sensor is going to communicate to the base station, see the amount of energy used by every sensor, and there is a possibility that the sensor dies in between and we cannot communicate later. So the first ever algorithm was Leach algorithm, predicted for Leach algorithm for that is the simplest and suitable algorithm for sensor nodes for having a medium energy efficiency. We will not achieve full energy efficiency, but it will be much better compared to random placement. Now we can balance the load in each sensor node, or as well as cluster head. So suppose one sensor is always receiving information, whereas is other sensor which is very close to it is not getting any information, because it is not coming in that range. In that case, this will survive, but the one which is getting information and broadcasting it again and again will die fast. Sometimes one sensor node dying, one sensor node make the whole sensor network inactive. So we have to make the load in the cluster head balanced, as well as in sensor node balanced, so that the life expectancy of the whole sensor network can be increased. Now we can, this is the next one is the communication path can be optimized, or apart from this we can have other strategy, that your sync node will plan a predefined path, and it will move and it will reach the cluster head for taking information. Optimal combination of modulation schemes and error correcting code is also possible. This is also like, while, because if you think about security and accuracy, in that case you can have modulation schemes and error correcting codes with a optimal combination. There are different methods, and a combination of these two can give efficiency. And by modifying the architecture of sensor node. Modifying the architecture of sensor node means, see, this is your sensor node. Here we have got so many blocks. So I have just consider this block, transceiver block, where we can transmit and receive. Apart from this, any of this, see, suppose I optimize localization method, energy efficiency will improve. Suppose I optimize mobility method, this will improve. So this is basically any block can be modified to have a better efficiency. Now let us start with the first method of optimizing energy sensor network, that is clustered sensor network. So we can form a cluster. How will you form? This cluster node and these sensors are one and the same. There is no difference. But we can make some node as cluster head by seeing certain parameters. What are the parameters? The energy it is having, the remaining energy it is having, and as well as its nearness to the sensor nodes, other sensor nodes, so that it can collect information very fast. And then this node can communicate to other cluster heads, and the other cluster heads can communicate to the base station. So we have these are the results. This also have taken from a paper, and that paper is cited here. So the algorithm which we proposed became better, and we compared to what? Compared to the same scenario without cluster heads. Now we have developed a biogeography based optimization algorithm for improving the energy efficiency of the sensor network. So here we have to identify the shortest path for optimizing location of cluster heads, and also we have to reduce the number of hops also. So with this, by reducing number of hops, so if you reduce the number of hops, then it will be the shortest path. So how we can do it? So we have to bring one more condition in the biogeography algorithm as a suitability factor, as distance between sensor node and cluster head, distance between cluster head and sink, and number of hops. So this way, I'll using biogeography algorithm, we will be able to achieve more energy efficiency. And what is biogeography algorithm? In biogeography algorithm, we define a habitat suitability index. So in this case, the first case when we form the cluster heads, basically the suitability index we can consider it as the remaining energy in the node and its nearness to the sensor node. So the habitat having higher HSI value will replace the habitat having lower HSI value. We call it as emigration and immigration. So using this immigration and emigration forms the migration step of VBO. Now, see, this was in biogeography algorithm, we had an habitat index value. Now we have to modify it because our aim is to find out the shortest path also. Not only the cluster head, we have to find out the shortest path also. For finding out the shortest path, we have to define more variables, and those variables could be like decreasing the distance between sensor node and cluster head to sink, and reducing the number of hops. So that means will express your habitat suitability index as function of SIV. SIV is nothing but this species which this condition constraints which we have defined, that is the distance between the sensor node and cluster head, and then cluster head to sink, and number of hops are the parameters. Using that parameters, we are modifying the suitability index of the sensor node. So that was our paper. The paper is extended biogeography based optimization algorithm. So now you see this method extends the lifetime of the cluster head by optimizing location of it related to sink and sensor node, along with minimizing the number of hops taken for transmitting data to the sink. It improves the network lifetime by nonlinear mapping of cluster head. So how we can go ahead with extended biogeography algorithm? So actually what we'll do is, suppose you see the here you see cluster head. This is a cluster head and these are the sensor nodes. Okay. So here we have considered the nearness of the sensor node to other sensor nodes and as well as the remaining energy. Now we have to change it. So initially we number some sensor nodes as cluster head, and the cluster head is connected to different sensors. Maybe CH2 is connected to SN1, CH2 is also connected to SN2, and uh, so this way we have defined, like randomly we will define some sensor nodes are cluster heads and the remaining as normal nodes, and then we see where they are connected. Now we can modify this. This combination can be modified in an iteratively way so that you can get the best possible one. So why we can ensure that it is the best possible one? This is by actually minimizing this function. For each vector we define, we will minimize this function, where the variables are distance of ith sensor node to jth cluster head, and gamma will be the distance of jth cluster head to the sink, and then we have a number of this is the number of hops taken for transmitting data from sensor node to the base station. So if you minimize this, we get a value of alpha. So depending on the value of alpha, we will be able to decide whether the sensor node becomes cluster head or not. And this will be repeatedly doing so that you can have the life expectancy, better life expectancy for the sensor network. These are some what you call the results which we have got after executing this extended biogeography based optimization method. So we have deployed some sensors randomly, and then we have the results like this. We compared our work with other sensor networks, other applications also, like PBO, PSO, GLBCA, GA, and LDC. So every case we have seen that our work is better, performing better compared to other algorithms. Now let us see how we can balance the data. How will we balance the data? Why do we require, first of all, why do we require the load balancing in sensor network? Suppose this is your see, we have got a lot of cluster heads and we have got a lot of sensors, and all these things are communicating to the sensor node. So naturally, this sensor node will drain its battery fast. So suppose the sensor node is not there, why is there any meaning for the sensor network? The whole sensor network will become inactive. So what we can do is we can replace this node with other nodes while executing the sensor node. Okay. So in this case, we can actually, what we can do is we just keep on changing this sensor node with other sensor nodes, so that the load in all the cluster heads as well as the sensor network is approximately equal. It is not coming as concentrated on one place and concentrated on other place. That has to be avoided. It has to be uniformly distributed. Then what happens? The life expectancy of this whole network will increase, and that is what we require. So we require balance in nature sensor network. So we have actually considering two different type of sensor network here. One is stable connected distance based stable connected dominating set. So we call it as CDS. CDS means connected dominating set. So here you see these cluster heads are well connected. So there will be definitely advantages in that. But even these sensor nodes we can change. This pattern will remain same, but the nodes can change so that the energy dissipated by each node is same. Note that only this 5 node will expire faster. No, we have to ensure that the load in all sensor nodes as well as the cluster should be balanced. The same thing can be applicable here also. This is basically randomly distributed sensor network. So we are actually proposing a gray wolf based optimization algorithm for achieving stable, balanced, and energy efficient based WSN. We also propose distance-based stable clustering algorithm using GWO for improving the performance of the cluster head-based WSN. So we have seen that our work is better compared to other existing algorithms. So what do you mean by gray wolf optimization? Gray wolf optimization means actually every optimization algorithm will exploit and explore and exploit. So initially it will just find out which species is good and where we can the species which is good will be retained and the species which is bad will be removed. So here we have actually our aim is for balancing the sensor network. So here we can see we actually proposed a variable DLI, that is dominator lifetime index. It is nothing to do with anything. It is actually we have normalized the energy compared to the energy dissipation in transmitting one data. So we require D energy minus EDSS by EDSS. So this way we will define this represents the energy in the energy of the sensor node. So we call it as dominator lifetime index. And we using gray wolf based optimization algorithm will minimize the interquartile range of all these cluster heads. And then we'll get the final solution that the sensors which we have assigned as cluster head or dominating node can remain as sensor node or can be whether it can be remain as a cluster head or a sensor node depending on the function which we define. So we have like see every in this type of sensor network we define the cluster heads as dominator nodes and the sensor nodes as dominating nodes. So if a sensor is assigned as a dominator node, we'll write 1 there. And if it is not assigned as a cluster head, we define it as 1. Now this 1 and 0 can be continuously changed and each time find out the what is the value of this. When this becomes minimum, we say that now we can stop and the sensors which are defined as dominator nodes now will become the cluster head and or dominator node, and the other one will be the normal node performing as a normal node. So we just minimize this function. In this function, what are all there? This is effective transmission distance. Effective transmission distance is decided by the distance between the sensor node and the sink, and sensor node and the cluster head, and then cluster head and sink. IQRL, we have already defined what is the dominator lifetime index, and the interquartile range of this has to be made equal so that the load is balanced and the number of dominating nodes. So we will find out a minimum value for this. When we get a minimum value for this, then our algorithm converges and the solution will be the result as a result of a vector where dominator nodes are kept as 1 and dominating nodes are kept as 0. So these are the results of our our algorithm. This is basically what we have done is this is connected dominated set. In that particular application, in that particular type of sensor network, the energy dissipated by dominators and number of nodes, we have plotted it, and we have seen that our algorithm is much better compared to other algorithms. Similarly, we have even calculated the energy dissipated by the entire network to the number of nodes, and this this shows that our algorithm is much better than the existing algorithms. We have already compared the instability period also, and for instability period also, our algorithm becomes stable very fast compared to others. We have compared it with simple cluster heads also, cluster head based sensor network also. There also we have seen that our algorithm is performing much better compared to other algorithms. And we have simulated it in NetSim also, and see, without applying the Gray-Wolf based optimization algorithm, we can see energy peaks at certain locations. But once we apply, then we can see that we can get a flat energy indication. This means that the energy is equally divided, or the load is balanced. So we have explained two type of algorithm. One biogeography based algorithm, another one Gray-Wolf based optimization algorithm. In one we form cluster head, and in the second, after forming the cluster head, we will balance the load. Now a third category of optimizing energy consumed by the sensor network is giving mobility to sink node. So in that case, we have to divide the whole sensor network into different parts, and for each part we'll be having cluster head, and we can plan a path for the sink to reach a location where it can gather more number of data from maximum number of cluster heads in one particular location. So by this method, actually what we are proposing is mobile sync distributed load routing algorithm using biogeography method of optimization. So this is what we are proposing here. So that means actually what we are doing is we are finding out the optimal location of sink node in a particular section. So we divide, after randomly deploying the sensor network, we divide the whole region into different parts. It can be 4 parts, it can be 6 parts, it can be 8 parts. Then we can find out the optimal location of mobile sync node in each part, and then we have to plan the sync node to move in a predefined path and reach that location and stop, so that it can collect information. So this is how basically this is the whole scenario. We have sensor node like that. We have divided into 4, and then we apply biogeography based algorithm for cluster head formation, and so now we have cluster head also formed. So if the sink is located here, then all these cluster heads can communicate to sink directly, so that the energy lossage will be less. Number of hops is not there at all. Then it can go to other locations also, and we have to define the path. But for mobile sync, we have to supply energy. We have to find out some way or the other it remains alive and its battery capacity should be high. So here basically this I have already explained, that is concept of sink node with mobility is considered. If sink node is stationary, cluster head near the sink node will drain energy faster. The optimal location of sink node is identified using biogeography based optimization method, which in turn minimizes the energy consumed by the sensor nodes. VBO is also used for energy hole-free deployment sensor nodes. So now how is it happening? You see, again we form that vector, that is sensor node 1 is connected to cluster head 2, sensor node 3 is also connected to cluster head 2. Then, so this way we can see that we have a formation of a vector, and then we can find out the optimal location of the sink where it has to stay in a particular region. How will we do? For each vector, we will calculate this function. The function are W1 and W2 are the weights assigned in weighted sum approach. R hops are number of floating hops, and D is the transmission distance, inter-hop transmission distance. N-wall means the number of cluster heads near the mobile sink. And we have to see that this has to be minimum. If this function is to be minimum with each vector. So this is your random location, and we have simulated for 4 different parts, 6 different parts, 8 different parts, and each time we have identified the location of mobile sink and a predefined path also we have defined. So this way we can see that the energy consumed in transmitting data can be reduced, because mobile sink will come near to the cluster head, so that the life expectancy of the whole wireless sensor network increases. We have tested it using MATLAB code, and we have seen that our algorithm is better one compared to the other existing algorithms. We have calculated the network residual energy. Network residual energy is maximum here compared to other algorithms. So this way I have explained all optimization algorithm based energy efficiency. Now I can explain how we can improve the energy efficiency by modifying the architecture of a sensor node. So I earlier also have told all these blocks can be optimized for having optimal energy utilization. So I will be actually concentrating on how we can improve the capability of the processor, or how we can improve the energy efficiency of a processor as well as energy efficiency of transfer blocks. So we have done design of an energy efficient ALU using Vedic multipliers. A conventional ALU is less capable of intelligently predicting outcomes based on previous inputs. Its neural counterpart, on the other hand, aims at improving its prediction capability by employing an activation function and making it intelligent ALU. So ALU can become intelligent also, because it can find out what I have to do next, and then it can plan it, and then it can execute it. So that can be, whenever there is a learning process coming in, neural network is the best one. ALU design with neurons suffer from some problem, that is, it is quite bulky and it was slow. But the algorithm which we propose can be used for implementing Vedic logic in all arithmetic and logical operations performed, which in turn make it faster as well as the compact size. Both can be. Vedic logic helps in performing faster calculations by utilizing simple techniques to solve complex problems. To make ALU suitable for sensor nodes, ALU using Vedic neuron is proposed in this work. Use of neurons in the design gives prediction capability by employing activation function and helps the design an intelligent ALU. So we actually used Vedic multipliers using Urdhva Trayapaka Sutra. Using these Vedic neurons, arithmetic and logical functions have been implemented. The logic gates are designed according to the according to individual truth table conditions. So let us see, this is your artificial neuron model. Any neuron model is something like that. We have some input, it will keep on changing the weight in such a way that our output matches our requirement. So this is basically a simple architecture of a neuron. So if I am going to do it, I have to make what I can do is I can use Vedic multiplier for all multiplication application, and then it can be added, and then activation function can be developed, and you can get the result. So for a small example, I am showing how we have defined an XOR gate in a neural using neurons. So by using these equations, you can make an exclusive OR gate. But here you see the lot of multiplication part is there, W1, X1, W2, X2. So these multiplications we have done with Vedic multiplier. That way we made the neuron as a Vedic neuron. And that Vedic neuron is used for implementing the processor or ALU. So I have tested this ALU using a simulator Spartan, and we have seen that our results are much better. See the delay with Vedic application and conventional application. For any term we decide here, you can get the delay. So we compare these two delays. This will be lesser. This is lesser. So Vedic neuron or Vedic ALU is much better option compared to conventional ALU. This CC, it also reduces the size. The number of LUTs used is also considerably reduced from Vedic logic and combination logic. So this way we proposed Vedic ALU for enhancing the performance of the sensor node, faster as well as smaller size. So this was one example. Another example I told you, I will be going to the communication part. In sensor nodes, power is consumed mainly in the transceivers. Transmitting and receiving data is the part where the sensor node consumes most of the power. So we can define a some configuration. So in the using some configuration of the amplifiers, we will be able to make it faster, which can handle more bandwidth, but at the same time less power. So this is what we have done. So what we focused on design of switch mode power amplifiers in classic configuration to achieve improved bandwidth and efficiency at lower power supply. To make Class C amplifier suitable for sensor nodes, two different configurations using basic Class C amplifiers are proposed here. The first configuration is Class C amplifier with double cascoding, and second design is the Class C amplifier using common drain followed by common source cascading. Cascode amplifier. Power amplifier using cascode configuration works at lower VG and VDS, which leads to reduction in power consumption. Higher output resistance and higher gain can be obtained by adding another level of cascoding. Here another transistor in common gate is added, which results in higher output resistance increased by a factor equal to voltage gain. Common gate configuration acts as current buffer. It takes input signal current at low input resistance and provides nearly equal current at very high output resistance. Presence of common gate configuration has resulted in increased load current, thus the increased efficiency and bandwidth. Whereas in cascading, common drain common source cascading gives wider bandwidth compared to common source configuration. Transistor in common source configuration will exhibit a Miller effect that results in large input capacitance. Buffering action of common drain configuration causes a low resistance across the input capacitance of common source configuration. So we see that this CDCS configuration will enhance bandwidth as well as it reduces power and enhance the bandwidth. Impedance match is provided by common drain configuration in CDCS cascading, results in less loss across the load. It leads high load current and increase the efficiency as well as the bandwidth. So this is one this cascading configuration, and this is actually cascading configuration. So with these two configurations, we have seen that we have simulated it, and in Spartan we have simulated, and the results are there. But I conclude with a better way. That is, you can see that this proposed double cascode class C amplifier, the current, see the current rating, here the current it is taking was 2.1 ampere, and RMS value is this, and efficiency is this, and bandwidth is this. So in CDCS combination, we have better efficiency and better bandwidth also. So now I am concluding my work. For any sensor network, energy efficiency is very, very important. Energy efficiency can be achieved by optimizing data transmission using optimizing algorithms. The processing element architecture can be modified for improving the efficiency. Now, other for energy efficiency, we can improve each and every block of a sensor node, and each and every method for security of operation, error correction, everything can be improved. You can look into any direction, and energy scavenging is another important research field in this area. So with this, I am concluding my work, and I would like to thank one and all who has registered and watched this presentation. Have a nice day to all, and welcome you all to the era of IoT.
Life is a journey full of challenges, and sometimes it can be a challenge to make the right decision. Hi, this is Sundar Raj from Francis Xavier Engineering College, Department of Information Technology of 2020 batch. This 4 years of engineering journey taught me many lessons. This is the platform where I found myself. My department faculty guided me in the right way to choose my domain. On my second year of engineering, I got IBM certified on predictive modeling, which helped me to choose my domain as a data scientist. And of course, I have done many projects on data science, which is related to the real-time projects and helped me in a way to get placed in my major. Of course, you know, college means degree and degree means job. Thanks to Francis Xavier Engineering College for providing me a best training regarding the placements, which helped me to get placed in card technologies with the annual CTC of 5 lakhs and also in Cognizant with the annual CTC of 4 lakhs. Being in Francis Xavier Engineering College is like staying on the road to the Damascus, where you can gain the required knowledge to achieve your goals. Thank you.